Welcome back to another edition of Gary's Record Collection. A little bit of a detour this time out. We're going to talk records, but we're going to talk recordings, and we're going to talk about recordings by one band in one state. My friend Rob came to me a while ago. He says, you should do a episode on all the times that Led Zeppelin was in the state of Florida, because there's a couple of famous ones in there, appearances in there. And I said, you know what? Why not? We can probably do that. We've got some recordings. We got some albums. So let's give it a shot. So let's go back to the beginning. 1969. The first Florida appearance of Led Zeppelin was in Miami at The Image Club, Thee, The Image Club. 2 nights, February 14th and February 15th. The 14th was recorded, and actually there is a Japanese promo video film of Communication Breakdown, where it's like a one camera shoot and it's very tight shots. But apparently that was shot in that club probably before the actual show, and people have identified it just mainly because of the fixtures in that club, the way that the club was designed. So a little bit of an interesting tidbit there, that some film of Led Zeppelin, promo film, actually was done in Miami. So so the 14th was actually recorded. Somebody in the audience had a tape recorder. And keep in mind that Zeppelin had only been in the United States since the very end of December. And Led Zeppelin 1, the album, had not even been released until late January. So this is only going on radio airplay and the sales that are starting. So that's, what people were going on, and somebody brought a tape deck. So here we go. This is the first thing they heard at The Image Club in Miami. Train kept a rolling, the old holdover from the Yardbirds days, but that was the song that kicked off Led Zeppelin. That's the first song that they rehearsed, and so it was a good way to get the crowd going. It would usually either be Train Kept a Rolling or Communication Breakdown, because it's a very jarring, great start, kick off the show. So that was their first appearance in Miami at The Image Club, February 14th. They were there the next night, the 15th. Later in the year, they went to Jacksonville on August 24th. No recording exists of that, unfortunately, but this is the summer of '69. It was all the festivals were happening, and they were doing about a 1-hour set and would end with the How Many More Times medley, and then probably Communication Breakdown at the very end. So some of those other shows, especially like the Dallas Festival on the 31st, is probably indicative of what people in Jacksonville would have heard. We're going to skip ahead to April 9th, 1970 in Tampa. And this one is on an album. This was called what was it called? Makunju, that came out in the late 80s on the Screaming OICU label. Great picture of Jimmy Page there, although that is from not his Led Zeppelin days. That is actually from the Arms tour in '83. You can tell because he's got that vest on. That was from the '83. Well, on the back, though, we've got a plant from what looks like, I think it's 75, because Page has the Black Dragon suit. It could have been 77, but I think it was 75 for that. Anyway, not a bad recording on this one. It's only a partial recording because it starts with White Summer, and the show probably by then was, an hour and a half to close to 2 hours. So we get about, maybe 90 minutes of here. Let's take a listen to hear what they had, what audiences were hearing at the Curtis Hickson Hall. And we're going to skip ahead just a little bit. This is the audience because this is their biggest song. This was their hit. This was all over the radio. And as soon as everybody hears Whole Lotta Love, they go nuts and start clapping. And so a fair audience recording of that show, pretty decent, certainly for 1970. Not terribly muffled. I mean, it sounds like they were, way back, buried in the audience. They hadn't gotten to that point of taking their microphones and putting up on a big pole to get away from the crowd noise yet. But yeah, not a bad show. April 9th. That was followed by April 10th in Miami, 1970. No recording of that one. It would be another year and several months before they came back to Florida. Their only appearance in Orlando, August 31st, 1971, at the Sports Stadium, which was later the Eddie Graham Sports Stadium, where they had all championship wrestling from Florida. Apparently, it was just like a big barn with a dirt floor. That's it. But that was where all the acts played. It was out on the east side of Orlando. Now it's all just residential areas. You would never know that there was a stadium out there. But back in the day, it was like you went out east essentially out into the cow pastures, and then there was this big stadium, and that's where all the rock bands played. So here we go. And this is the only soundboard recording of Led Zeppelin in Florida at all. So here we go. Now, at this point, this is, of course, Black Dog. At the end of August, the audience didn't know what this song was because Led Zeppelin 4 wasn't going to be released for another couple of months. So this is a brand new song, and people are probably just milling about going, what is this? We've never heard this? Kind of cool, kind of catchy, but we don't know. And then obviously, how do you know what it's called? Because there's no reference to a black dog in the song at all. And this was also a time where Robert Plant was messing around with the lyrics. In the second verse, it's like very unfamiliar lyrics.
I got a girl, steal my soul, sit in mine, sweet jelly roll. Come on town, come on get out, never stop by, never look about.
And no audience response there at all because they don't know about how that song goes. So Robert Plant had to do it all. Now, I did make one slight mistake, but it's an understandable mistake. I said that Orlando was the only soundboard recording to come out. And that's what we thought for years and years and years and years and years. However, the next night they played Hollywood, Florida, now Pembroke Pines, Florida. They played the Sportatorium. And an audience recording came out from the Hollywood show. And come to find out, the encores, what we thought were the encores of the Orlando show, are actually from the Sportatorium, from the next night. So for whatever reason that the tape came out, they tacked on a couple of songs from the next night. Don't know why. So we thought this great version of Thank You was from Orlando, but it's not. It's from Hollywood, Florida on September 1st.
The sun refused to shine, I would still be loving you. If mountains crumble to the sea, there would still be you and me. I'll give you my all. God, woman, nothing more.
And there you go, Led Zeppelin in Hollywood, Florida, September 1st, 1971. It was going to be almost 2 years before they were back in the Sunshine State. And they made a big splash on May 5th, 1973 at the Tampa Stadium. 56,000 of your closest friends were in attendance that day. Set the record for the largest attended concert of all time. It's been broken since then, but at the time, the biggest audience for a concert. And so this was the Houses of the Holy Tour. The album had been out for a few months at this point. This was actually only the second date of the U.S. tour. They had played in Europe in March and ended up in France on like April 1st, April 2nd. Took a month off and then came stateside. The first show was in Georgia and then second night was in Tampa. And there is a recording for it, so let's go listen. This is the encore, actually.
We done 4 already, but now we're steady, and then they went 1, 2, 3,
A little mixing up of the lyrics there, but the ocean, and it really was an ocean of people. And that recording kind of shows it too, because it's thin. There's not a lot of bass in there. So whoever was recording them, it was pretty far away from a good speaker stack or the front of the stage to get some good sound. You heard John Bonham count it off, and that came through pretty well. But as soon as the music came in, it just became really a thin sound. But a big concert anyway, because 56,000 people there. Pretty good, certainly for that time. Then it was off to Jacksonville on May 7th, 2 nights later. And that was it for Florida. The next date that was scheduled was 1975 at West Palm Beach on March 8th. However, that show was canceled because apparently the promoters did not make improvements to this was at the West Palm Beach, the raceway, I guess the speedway, and they did not make improvements to the facilities for the show in time. So a few weeks out, they had to cancel. They had to cancel the show. There was talk about maybe moving it to the Orange Bowl in Miami, but none of that came to fruition. So if you had tickets for March 8th, 75 at West Palm Beach, you were out of luck. You had to get a refund. And then that was also, Zeppelin had played in Dallas on March 4th and March 5th. They would have taken that 2-day trip to West Palm for March 8th, and then they hit San Diego on March 10th. So they would have had a couple of good days of travel in there. And as it turned out, they just basically had some time to just lay at the beach, basically, or lay at the hotel. They didn't have anything to do for 5 whole days. Moving on to the last U.S. tour, 1977, and this one is a pretty famous one. June 3rd, 1977, and the reason it's famous is if you don't know about Florida weather, it's the classic saying of wait 5 minutes and it'll change. So in the springtime, especially, it can change on a dime, and that's what happened on June 3rd at 20 after 8. We were ready for the show. People had been gathering for like 12 hours, and a thunderstorm opened up, and they had to stop the show. So this was they only recorded about 20 minutes. They got 20 minutes of the show in, and I have this on the big box set, Strange Tales from the Road. This is a 10 record set, which has got a lot of stuff in, and there's another episode about this actual set. But the entire Tampa show is on this set. Because they only did the three songs. Song Remains the Same, Sick Again, Nobody's Fault But Mine, and they tried to keep going, but apparently there was a big tarp of water just gathered over the heads of everybody on the stage, and they said, nope, not gonna happen. But at least this is what they heard. This is what the audience was what they got before the skies opened up. It's The Song Remains the Same, kicked it off. Audience is just going nuts because they've been waiting so long, and the band sounds great too. This was going to be like a great show. They just sounded tight and ready to go. Man, a great start to that show, and of course, 15 minutes later, they were running for cover because the skies opened up. And interestingly, a couple of recordings surfaced out of. There were actually, we think, 3 different recordings that came out of that show. They all sounded the same, especially when the rain started. It was like those big raindrops that are probably the size of like a watermelon started coming down, and so you could hear them plop, plop, plopping. But interesting stuff. Afterwards, there were news reports, there were TV reports, and it sounded like somebody was recording the news, you know, the little cassette recorder and a microphone, holding it to the speaker of the TV. I know I did that kind of stuff as a kid. Here's 2 of the news reports about Tampa 77.
Arrested during the melee, and Tampa police nixed the idea of promoters trying to stage the concert again tonight. Promoters are trying to set a date in the future for the concert, but in the meantime, refunds are being offered.
And then
It's erupted after rain and lightning forced the rock band off the stage. A crowd of 70,000 started getting wild even after they were told their tickets were still good and would be honored tonight. Police say at least 4,000 people were involved in the melee. 24 people were arrested.
And so there you go. That is the end of Led Zeppelin in Florida. It came to a crashing halt via a thunderstorm on June 3rd, 1977. And they never came back. I mean, the 77 tour was canceled after Oakland when the band got to New Orleans and Robert Plant got the call from home that his son was very sick and had died. And then, of course, John Bonham dies in September of 1980, just before they're getting ready to come over to the United States to do their North American tour the first time in 3 years. So they never came back. The Tampa show in '77 was the last time that Zeppelin was in Florida. So an interesting history. I mean, Tampa Stadium's, it holds like 55, 60,000 people. You've got that horrible rainstorm in '77. The biggest concert in '73. And by the way, some of that news footage from '73 is on the official DVD of The Song Remains the Same that came out in 2007, and they also used it in the intro to Celebration Day. So that those film clips are out there. They've been officially released, so you can take a look at them. They're probably sitting on YouTube as well. But there you go, Led Zeppelin in Florida. It was a pretty good run, a very interesting run, and full of some very notable shows. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on Gary's Record Collection.